Hi there. I wanted to take a quick moment and take a break from editing and just talk for a little bit about Late Night with the Devil. There's a lot of controversy surrounding the use of AI in it, and I think it sparks a grander conversation about the films that we absorb and the moral choices that we make before clicking play. I'm not going to be discussing what I thought of the movie here. I'm actually going to be doing a review as a Patreon exclusive, so if you do want to hear my thoughts aside from I liked it, go ahead and click on the link below and consider joining the Patreon. The tiers start at only $1 a month. So as a lot of folks know at this point, Late Night with the Devil used in some of its interstitials AI-generated content. And this has been getting a little bit more of a moral controversy discussion surrounding the use of AI art within media that is, I think, specifically monetized or for sale. I haven't read up on the specifics in terms of if anybody actually released anything about Late Night with the Devil surrounding this controversy in terms of the sources that the AI pulled from and who generated it. My take on this is I don't morally approve of the use of AI for commercial purposes unless the artist that generated it was compensated and the film had production artists to it, clearly. I mean, set designers, all sorts of different artists, and if one of those was tasked with typing out a prompt and spending hours typing out refined prompts, refining the results from there and using Photoshop to, hone things in, that they were basically compensated for their time as an artist using this product, this AI, as one aspect of their art, including paintbrushes, so on and so forth. Additionally, I hold a very ethical standpoint that the sources that the AI pulls from must be consenting. There are moral AIs out there. There are sources that make sure that the pools that they draw from are consenting artists. This has not always been my stance. Morals and ethics are fluid and not black and white. And I think that that's an important thing to really kind of talk about, honestly. This has been a difficult thing to talk about. One thing we may also want to keep in mind in terms of Late Night with the Devil is this movie was finished in production in 2023, which means it was undergoing production earlier than that, possibly into the early months of 2023, possibly even into 2022. And the dialogue has shifted a lot, just in the last 6 months, forget the last 2 years. I've actually generated AI content for one of my channels. In a video that has now since been pulled, I tried my hand at a creepypasta. And I was at a loss of what to do with a thumbnail, and Stable Diffusion was at my fingertips as a relatively new idea. It was in its infancy, and it was exciting. So I kicked on Stable Diffusion, and I wrote in the prompts to generate based on the content that I was kind of wanting in the style of Stephen Gammell, the artist that is most famously known for his contributions to the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books. And I loved the output. And it wasn't until later, through polite conversation of folks that had dissenting viewpoints where they talked quietly and I listened quietly, that I came to the conclusion that they were absolutely right, that the AI pulling from an artist and working off of their works in a non-consent fashion is ethically wrong. And you may feel differently. And I'm not going to say that that's right or wrong that you feel differently. Everybody has their own stances, and this is exactly the point that I'm trying to make. It gets into the larger conversation that we have all the time as fans of horror movies, separating art from artist and where your line is. I can tell you exactly where my line is, and that is if an artist actively harmed, not purposefully, necessarily, but actively harmed somebody in the making and the production of the art. This is why I can never bring myself to watch another Victor Salva movie ever again, knowing that in the production of one or more of the Jeepers Creepers movies, he used the production of that to abuse individuals. I can't abide that. it basically taints the art for me. If the production is used to harm animals, I'm a little bit more, I don't know, flexible sounds wrong, but I guess there's really no other way to put it. I don't like that. I really have very strong moral standpoints as far as the reprehensibility of it. Films like Cannibal Holocaust, Hunchback at the Morgue, the 1979 Werner Herzog Nosferatu the Vampire. I don't like it, and I will always take the stance of putting strong disclaimers into anybody that wants to watch it saying, hey, this actually was used to harm animals, and I find that incredibly wrong. But it's not quite so far in that it will actually stop me from pressing play. And for some folks, it will. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The line that I have about the production being used to actively harm human beings, some people may not have that line. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. Moral and ethical standpoints and choices in terms of the art that we absorb is a very personal thing. And I think it requires very personal conversations. And I think it requires a level head to have those personal conversations. We need to embrace the idea of having civil discourse in a calm and open fashion. And when one of us reaches our limits in terms of what we're able to discuss or able to absorb in those conversations, that also needs to be respected. I can have a conversation all the livelong day about films like Happiness and so forth that deals with very controversial subjects involving minors. But having been a victim of sexual assault as a minor in the past, I will have a limit. And sometimes I need to express my, I need to bow out. I can't have this conversation anymore. Some days are good, some days are bad. And it just kind of depends on when you catch me. But ultimately, everybody has their line. But we need to get back to civil discourse and actually talking about this and respect each other's stances. That's why I say, if my line is different than yours, I fully expect it to be different than yours. We're different people. We have had different experiences. We have different opinions. And nothing is necessarily wrong with that. So if you have the moral standpoint that the use of AI in generating the interstitial images within Late Night with the Devil is your line in the sand, that you will not click play on it, okay, I respect that. That's ultimately where we need to get to. We need to pop our filter bubble, and we need to have open discourse, and then we need to respect each other that we aren't going to always align. We need to communicate, and we need to approach the table in a good faith manner with the understanding that everybody else needs to as well. And then if we can actually have calm, civil, good faith disagreements, we just wind up with a better understanding of each other. And we all benefit, even if our stances don't change. We need to enter into each conversation not necessarily as, I want to change your mind, but I want to understand different points of view better so that I can make a more informed decision about my ethical and moral standpoints going down the line. And when we look back at somebody's opinions from years ago, we need to understand that as human beings, we all change. Again, I used AI-generated imagery. So if somebody were to take a snapshot of my opinion, if I had proffered it back then, and use that against me now, well, they wouldn't really have too much of a leg to stand on because I've changed. And I've publicly admitted that I've changed. It allows us the opportunity for that big old G word, growth, which is what really we're here for. We're here to grow. We're here to learn. We're here to be better versions of ourselves today than we were yesterday, and hopefully a better version even still tomorrow. So do I think that the controversy surrounding Late Night with the Devil is warranted? I'm not going to say that it's not. It depends on your stance, and I'm going to respect that stance. And I'm going to have mine and hope that everybody else out there extends to me the same courtesy that I'm offering them. What I will say is that I think that there is a little bit, by a little bit, I mean way too fucking much in terms of exploiting controversy. It is okay for people to have disagreements, for them to have their line in the sand, and for them to publicly express that. But outrage has become a commodity, and it's also become an addiction, and it's something that we need to break. So yes, the controversy may be warranted, and I'm not going to negate that. But I also think that there has been an exploitation of that controversy that I cannot abide. I think I've delivered a fairly level-headed response to this whole thing here, but if somebody were to remix it or react to it or respond to it in any way, shape, or form for some reason, I have no doubt that the titles and the headlines and the thumbnails and so forth would use blasted and rages and so forth. We need to understand, identify, and tune out the rage bait. It needs to get quieted down because conversations can't be had if we're yelling. Conversations can only be had if we're talking and quietly listening. And that's where we need to get to. And that's what I hope to accomplish by releasing this video, by having a level-headed, calm discussion, hopefully with people that disagree with me in a calm, level-headed fashion. That's my goal, and that's my stance, and I think that's about it. So thank you so much for joining me here today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Have a good one, everyone.